Amen. And so one of the things you said, thank you, Imam Hassan, one of the things you said about, whatever you own will someday belong to someone else. I heard an extension of that, and it says, whoever you are will always belong to you. So whatever you own one day will belong to someone else, but whoever you are will always belong to you. And so that was always a very positive a very strong statement or quote that I heard. That was by Bob Proctor. He gave that quote. And so we're going to move on. Thank you again. And so at this time, we're going to have a little conversation. So conversation means you guys get to talk back, right? You guys get to jump in. All right. We've talked in the past about God's non-negotiables, right? Because we go around and go, why aren't we blessed yet? Why haven't God shown up yet? And he may be showing up, or he is showing up, and he's talking to you, but you can't hear him. Why can't you hear him? Because you haven't done all the things that he's asked you to do. Well, where are those things? They're in his word. You got to read his word to know what he's telling you to do, so that when he's speaking to you, you can hear him. The reason you can't hear him is because you have foggy brain. Well, how do I get rid of foggy brain? Well, one of his non-negotiables that we have to do if we're going to live the life in high frequency as he would want us to do is to forgive. And that's the subject, right? We talked about last week was I was going to talk about opioids or forgiveness, right? So I talked about opioids last week. We're going to talk about forgiveness this week. We have to forgive everyone that's ever hurt us in our entire lives. Because when you don't, you're walking around with this heaviness, and it's on your shoulders, and you're constantly triggered. And so what do I mean by forgive everyone that's ever hurt us? Well, first you need to forgive yourself. That shenanigan you pulled last week, last month, last year, 20 years ago, in your marriage, with your children, at your employers, you have to forgive yourself. With your best friend, the things you said or did, you have to forgive. You cannot keep paying for that year after year after year. You gotta forgive it, and you've gotta move on with your life. And if you feel, or the other person feels, that you've wronged them, then maybe you should do some reconciliation with that person on top of the forgiveness and go back to that person, because you can forgive by yourself. And so you want to forgive, like I said, everybody that's ever hurt you. The teacher who told you were never going to be anything. The parents who broke up and got a divorce. The father who walked away. Your father's new wife who didn't like you. The police who arrested your brother. Whoever that is, the person who broke your heart. The person who left you, the person who died on you, you have to forgive it all so you can take that weight off of you. Because what happens is our minds are like, when our minds are looking for closure. Our minds want to close things out. We want to make sense of it. Like, that don't make sense to me. Give me some more. I don't understand. Keep talking, because that doesn't make sense. And I must keep myself up at night if I can't make sense of it. So our brain is constantly trying to close it out so we can put it behind us so we can move on, because we can't keep everything open. And so when you don't forgive, it's like multiple doors in your brain is open. So many of us could have 40 or 50 doors open in our heads because we don't understand why you would leave me. I don't understand why you would cheat on me. I don't understand why you would tell me that. I don't understand why you would lie on me. I don't understand why you would fire me. I don't understand, because I would never do that to another human being. So why would you do that to me? I don't understand. So the door is still open. And now, based on my senses, my sight, my hearing, my taste, okay, I am constantly triggered by something out of one of those 50 doors. So I can be driving down the street and see a McDonald's billboard and remember my heart was broken at McDonald's back in 1981. And now I'm triggered. Now I'm thinking about that person. How dare they break my heart? How dare they do this? And how dare we're triggered because all these doors are open constantly. And you know, and then when you're triggered, the next person who you interact with is gonna get it. Right? You triggered into anger, and someone says good morning, and you like, what? Like, bro, all I said was good morning. Oh, okay. Or your children are triggered into anger. They go to school, the first person they see getting off the bus is the teacher, and they give the teacher attitude because they've been triggered. So it's important to forgive everything. And how do you do it? You got to write a letter of forgiveness. And you have to learn something from the event. And Imam said last week, you know, he was talking about how do you know that you've forgiven someone? You know you've forgiven them when the negative emotion of anger, sadness, anxiety, or depression, when the negative emotion is not there when you think about the person or the event. But if you think about them and what they did to you and you still want to slap them, you haven't forgiven them. If you still have anxiety, just because your dad is in the room or on the phone or calling you, then you haven't forgiven him, or your mom, or whatever the situation. Anytime you see someone, if you still have this anxiety when you get around, you haven't forgiven them. Remember, life gives us lessons. So we have to learn the lesson that event or that person was supposed to give us in our life to improve our life to go to the next level. You can always learn something from a negative event. If the only thing you learned was that you're strong and you're powerful and you're a survivor, if that's the only thing you need to learn from that negative situation, that negative person, that's enough to change that mindset and to change those thoughts, forgive that person and move on. So now you're no longer triggered. So now when you see the McDonald's billboard and you think about your very first heartbreak, you're like, that person really taught me something. And I learned something about myself. I'm a survivor. So now all of a sudden, there's no negative emotions. There's no anger, sadness, anxiety, or depression there. And you smile and you move on. It was a life lesson. And that's what life is. It's just a bunch of situations that we learn from. And instead of getting wrapped up into what you learn, take the lesson. You figure out what you can take out of it and move on. Forgive it all. So you know, I get my students when I'm talking to college students and they go, you know, well, how do I do that? What is the best way to forgive someone? Because you don't need the other person to forgive. You can forgive by yourself. You need the other person for reconciliation. But you only need yourself to forgive. So just write the letter, right? And in the letter that you write to that person, even if the person has passed away, in the letter that you write to them, you tell them that, you know, you get all those emotions out. I hate you, you know, you were not there for me. And if you had been there, I never would have, you know, experienced this situation. You lay it all out in that letter, every emotion. I'm angry, I'm sad, I have anxiety attacks because of you. Lay it all out. And then say, but I've learned, here's what I've learned. This, you know, the situation that you put me in has taught me ABC, taught me that I'm strong, taught me the lessons that I needed to learn here. I'm a better mother. I'm a better father. I'm better to my siblings because of your absence, right? I'm stronger. Lay all of that out in that. This is all in my book. I ain't trying to sell my book, but I'm just letting you know where it is.
So
So I'm sorry, go ahead, Dr. Ellis.